death penalty, but then say, well, for these particular people, it's okay, because that then creates a sort of an inconsistency in many ways, particularly if you're against the death penalty, if you say murder or something like that. And it is just like a very base response that you're having that you really need to think through, because yeah, and particularly if we're talking about, if we go beyond, people that actually are offenders to people who just have the feelings or urges, the idea that like you would want to just execute them, say, to me, when you really
Yeah.
think about it, is crazy, because they've not done anything wrong, and they've just been born with something, or have got this thing, sometimes from being abused themselves, that is a terrible proclivity that can lead to terrible things. But obviously,
Yeah.
the more we can, as a society, go, right, go and seek help, go and seek out some assistance to deal with this, the better it's going to be, and the less children in the long run that will be hurt.
Yeah, and I've 6, 7 years ago, I remember arguing with people. Even my neighbor, I lived in a duplex, argued with me on Facebook about this. This is the first time I really seen the like the only cure for pedophilia is a bullet. And I remember asking people
Yeah,
like you mean people that actually like fuck kids, right? You're not talking about people that haven't done anything. No, like all of them. I'm like, what do you mean? That's
yeah,
always been crazy to me. Like you want to hurt people who like is it what if I think about like killing people sometimes? Like what if I watch a scary movie and for the next couple days I try to like think about what it was like for that killer to do it. It's like what's going on? And I think when he talked about that stuff, I was like, finally somebody else that isn't insane talking about this. It made me feel more sane to hear somebody say the same thing that I said when I first heard people saying that stuff, because I think it really made me a lot less like it gave me a sense of misanthropy to hear people talk like that.
yeah. And I think that's one thing. One of the appeals of Mr. God is that, and the reason people do feel such an affinity to him, is because he's got this kind of hardline policy, and his hardline belief is that you should not be punished or harmed or hurt in any way for something you think, something that remains in your head. You know, I can fantasize about whatever I want.
Yeah.
If something's in your head and it's not hurting anyone, then why should you be punished or harmed for that? Um, and I think that's why people like that, because there is this tendency, like obviously the thought crime memes are a bit overplayed, but there certainly is a degree of people getting some sort of pleasure out of someone with the wrong views getting hurt. One example would be a white supremacist got the death penalty, and it didn't seem like people were celebrating because they committed murder or whatever it is that they'd done. The very fact that a white supremacist had been killed was good, because they were a white supremacist, what their belief was, rather than what their crime was. You see what I mean?
Yeah, they
Um,
were
and
happy
yeah,
that there was one less white supremacist in the world, not that we're trying to deter other people from committing acts of hate.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's something that is an important message. And when you take it to the extremes, it does get, very hard to really be consistent with it. But you do have to be consistent, I think, overall. And it's difficult, but yeah. But yeah, so that was our first interaction. And then after that, I basically got like a lot of criticism for it. Life went on, content went on. Um, and I think after that conversation, we've discussed this since, we had a kind of sense of like we weren't really quite sure about each other. I think, we ended on a fairly amicable note on the panel itself, but we didn't really like talk or have like strong feelings about one another or anything like that. And we followed each other on Twitter, and that was
Hmm.
kind of the extent that we left it at, right? And then the next part of the tale, I guess, would be the Dr. K arc.
Yeah.
So we could get into that. But was there anything I've missed or anything you wanted to ask about before that?
Um, let me check my notes and then I'll give it a thoughtful consideration. Well, yeah. So you kind of mentioned that you caught some shit for that. How bad did that get, and to what degree did it impact how you felt about engaging with him afterwards? Because like at a certain point, it gets expensive to talk to somebody.
Well, I think that like this all kind of happened like I was going through a period. So I'd just come out of my Carl Rittenhouse coverage, and I'd taken a
Nice.
very contrarian stance to the kind of like, I guess, lefty perspective, which is that he was that Carl Rittenhouse was a white supremacist kind of murderer who had gone and slaughtered people that were protesting Black lives. My take was like, yeah, this guy was an idiot, but he wasn't like a white supremacist murderer. It was self-defense. If you look at it, it's self-defense, and it wasn't like he was going out slaughtering Black Lives Matter protesters specifically. You know, one of the people there wasn't even there really for the protest. He was out of a mental health institution. Whatever the the overall take. That was my broad take on it, and it was kind of like I'd got a lot of kind of pushback and disagreement for that as well. Then I'd had the cracker discourse where there was I don't know if you saw that and what was going on there, but my basic position was like, yeah, like I don't mind racial humor, whatever, that's fine. But like, if you're calling someone a word that's used to denigrate someone on the basis of race in a vitriolic manner, that's bad. It maybe suggests some implicit feelings. Probably shouldn't do that. And that caused
to act
again
like
a bit
it's
more controversy.
good or okay
Sorry.
makes it even
Yeah,
scarier.
exactly. To morally justify it.
Yes.
That's the biggest issue.
That freaks me out.
Because even if you do it in anger and then you go, yeah, it's probably not the best thing to do. Like that's, we're all human, we all make mistakes.
My bad. I didn't mean to say it. I didn't mean to say Chud was a filthy Brit. I was just so impassioned. I won't do it again.
But it's like this attempt to, and it's not only to say, I mean, I think it is different from like the N-word even, right? But then to say, well, no, it's not just that it's different, it's that it's acceptable for me to do it and you should accept it. And if anyone is upset or bothered by it, you're a pussy. And don't you know black people have been the victims for soccer, And so it kind of went on and on like that. And I took the strong position on it. Well, I didn't think it was that strong, but lefties did. And that again caused more controversy. So by this point, I was kind of like, look, do you know what? A lot of these fucking lefties, a lot of these lefty types, even though I'm on their side, so to speak, it's like they're very inconsistent and they're not very good at like talking about these issues in a way that is actually, based on something substantive. It's just like whatever the way the wind blows, they're going to go with that, So I was kind of at the stage where I was a bit like, fuck you. Like, if you don't like what I'm saying and you disagree with me, that's fine. I don't mind. But don't act like I'm fucking, shitting on your cornflakes or like doing a hate crime against you just because I'm giving my perspective, which are contravenous to yours. So by the time the girl stuff came around, it was a bit like, well, fuck you. Like, you're going to fucking, be up my ass for talking to someone new and interesting on stream. Well, fuck off. Do you want my stream to be successful or not? Or do you just want me to sit there and react to Ben Shapiro videos for the rest of my days to fucking 150 viewers? It's like people are fucking bored of that shit, right? And I'm bringing them something that I think is interesting and different, and I'm being as honest as I can about it, and that still isn't okay with you. And like, you're talking about, acting like me doing this is like some sort of really bad thing, particularly when I'd had Mr. Girl on a panel where it was extremely like critical of him and everyone was basically disagreeing with him and cross-examining him. So yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it wasn't like super bad. I think it happened in a sort of miasma of other stuff happening with Mr. Girl. So I was kind of like, I don't know, the C or the D list discussion in part of it. Most people talking about Vosh, Destiny, etc. Right? But yeah, I had people who like I thought I'd had some sort of like friendship or some sort of like professional relationship with kind of criticizing me on Twitter, and in some cases it was done in a very sly way. And yeah, that pissed me off, And the thing is to remember as well with all of this is that you only see obviously so much of it on Twitter. You don't see everything on Twitter because people got you blocked and stuff like that. But there's obviously like discourse that happens. I think a few people sent me some screenshots of conversations people were having about it and other Twitch chats and stuff like that. So, it wasn't like world ending. I think that it probably benefited me, it's particularly in the long run more than it cost me. But it's just kind of like a frustration more of like, who the fuck are you to tell me what I can and can't do with my stream? If you don't like it, just tune out for that particular episode. No harm done.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like when you're talking about this, and I'm not saying like you're purposely dancing around, but like it sounds like it caused you real genuine like emotional pain when you see the people being sly about it. Like I think people really easily forget that just because they can't see your face, or even when they can see a streamer's face, that shit fucks you up still. Like you're still a person. People can hurt your feelings by attacking you. Especially dishonestly.
I think the thing is for me is you kind of get a bit of a thick skin in terms of like if a bunch of random people are like giving you shit, like it's not that bad. It might be annoying, you're like, for fuck's sake, but it's not that bad. When it's someone who you feel you've got some sort of connection with, or like, some even some sort of base level relationship, right? I wouldn't even call it a relationship, but some sort of, like let's say you follow each other on Twitter, right? Now that's not like a proper relationship, but there's like something there of saying like, hey, you follow me, I follow you, we see each other's stuff, let's continue on that basis. And then people kind of like cut you off of that and criticize you. You're like, what the fuck? Like, I've not done anything wrong to you here, you know? Like, I'm a big believer that if generally, sometimes I've, being a human, I maybe don't follow this 100%, but generally speaking, I tend to only go super hard for people if they've gone super hard for me or been shitty about me or done or said something shitty about me. So I do sometimes get a bit blindsided when someone who I've only ever had, positive relationships or conversations with does something that suggests like, well, fuck you, I don't want to be like associated with you anymore, because it's like, what? Like, I've not done anything to you, right?
Yeah.
Especially if they make a deal out, somewhat of a deal out of it publicly, and they sort of talk about it, and you're like, we could have sorted this in DMs. Like, why are you making this a public thing, But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, even the guy that I think maybe doesn't want to be my friend anymore. I'm not sure. The guy who got really heated at me and basically accused me of being a pedophile apologist for doing this. I haven't seen him in probably 5 years, but like, so like you'd think it wouldn't. It fucking bothers me because it's not even like that they're saying it. It's like, do you feel like it's like, how can you? Why would you believe that of me? Like, I thought you had an understanding of who I am. Like, what else have I done that makes this plausible?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when it's like there's some sort of insinuation that you've got some sort of predation on children or something because you're speaking to someone.
You've been a pedophile the whole time. I was just waiting for you to out yourself. That's why I became friends with you. That's why you hide your face. No.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's like, where does this come from? Like, surely you should be judged on what you say and what you think and what you express on like a stream if you're a content creator. Not that, you've spoken to this person, so you're therefore sullied.
Yeah, it almost feels like sometimes I'm really tempted to do because I'm pretty far left. Oh my God. Sorry, my dogs are also very passionate.
No worries.
Sometimes I want to, I'm pretty far left, so a lot of my, well, not far left, I'm left. So a lot of my friends are too, so when they say shit like that, I kind of want to be like, well, it sounds like you're really upset about this for like no reason. Like, did you ever consider maybe you're just a closeted pedophile? Like they do when people are being very homophobic? Like it seems like you get like, why are you so mad? Have you taken a good look at yourself in the mirror and asked like, maybe I'm the one that's attracted to children? And when I hear people talk about these things, it makes me mad because I'm really mad at myself.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It caused me a lot of. I didn't really understand why it caused me so much grief like 5-6 years ago when I talked to people on Facebook about it. But now seeing it happen online, I think it's just people are fucking crazy when it comes to certain parts. It just activates that ape brain and they go ham.
Yep. Definitely.
See I don't think anything even happened in between that and the Dr. K arc. So let's talk about the pay-per-view special, the Dr. K arc. Oh God, I was so about it. I was so impassionately mad at this guy. I only seen Dr. K like one time. He talked to Destiny, and it was weird. It always seemed like he was trying to draw like weird lines, and like he like tried to make Destiny say he wanted to be like Cloud Strife. But I was like, it was all right. It was interesting to see Destiny have that kind of conversation, and then all of a sudden I saw the other guy's video, which I was like, that's a little weird. And then Max came out balls to the fucking wall and really laid it out in probably the smartest way I think that he could have. A lot of people said that he should have been a little bit more pointed and said like, here's what you should think about it. But I think he did it in a really good way artistically and like pragmatic.
Yeah,
and then Twitch burned to the ground overnight.
Yeah, that was something. I mean, I could explain kind of the other side of it, like where I came into it all, because basically, I think I can't remember where I saw it, but I got wind that Mr. Girl had spoken to this healthy gamer coach, and I, kind of roughly knew about healthy gamer. I'd seen them around. I didn't know the ins and outs of it, but I knew it was kind of like a mental health thing for gamers, for Twitch streamers, etc. And obviously, I'd seen some of the interviews from it about, but I'd never watched the content before. So I watched this interview, and I was like, "Damn, these sounds pretty fucking weird. What's going on?" And I started looking into it initially, and as I kind of started going through it, I started to see the same thing, like Ayurveda, dosha. I kept hearing this same thing being mentioned again and again. And at first, it was kind of like, oh, what's this all about then? This seems a bit weird. And as I started to look into it more, I was like, this sounds like pseudoscience, weird ass, like, guru type shit, And I was like, I don't like this at all. And then as time went on, I sort of came to realize that, like, do you know what? Actually, this stuff, I think, is actually what I'm more interested in looking at. And me and Max actually, traded messages backwards and forwards because Max had watched some of my coverage of Dr. K, and I was like talking about some aspect of Dr. K in a very emotive way. And I think that he kind of like related to that, and he saw that what I was like, I genuinely felt that way about it, And so we talked backwards and forwards, and through that conversation, it became clear he was more interested in the ethics and stuff like that. The Ayurveda stuff wasn't so much of interest. So I thought, well, if he's talking about that, I'm going to spend a bit more time looking at this Ayurveda. And then it kind of went from there, and I just dug into it and found all this stuff, and yeah, it kind of went from there, really.
I actually watched all or a lot, if not all, of your coverage on the Ayurveda. So last night, while I'm making up my questions and stuff, I heard like I had like your voice on loop saying Ayurveda because I heard you say it so many fucking times for
Yeah.
like a week straight. Yeah, I'm like thinking about the Dr. K stuff, and I'm like, that's all I could hear is just Ayurveda, Ayurveda.
Like
when
a
you
chant.
said it just a minute ago, it triggered part of my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's that stuff is really weird, and it made everything that I watched really weird for a while. Cause like I think Wicked Supreme was on your side, and like Destiny was like, whoa, maybe magic is real only right now in this conversation. And I'm like, what? Like, it's fine that you didn't watch the video. It's not fine. I waited for like a week before I gave up that Destiny was going to watch Reckless because everybody was waiting to hear what Destiny had to say about it. And I was like beyond hyped. I was like, oh my God, this is going to like really set this whole thing on fire. I just had like a 24/7 chub waiting for the Destiny review to come out. That never happened. Then he came out, I was like, you guys, if he's Indian, magic's allowed to work when he does medicine. I was like, what the fuck? It just seemed like I never expected anything like that to happen.
Well,
he said it in a really good way, but that's essentially what he's saying.
So I think with that, because I had this issue when I first started covering it of like, I feel like I'm saying the sky is blue in my own head, obviously, but other people are saying no, it's red, and someone else saying no, it's pink. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it really turned me fucking crazy because I was like, no, he is saying this. This is something which just isn't like medically proven at all. And so I thought, how can I get people to understand like the lengths of what this guy is saying? Because to me, it was almost like saying, oh yeah, if you go and find some herbs and put them in a bowl and drink them, all your medical problems will be solved. That's what it seemed like to me. It was that crazy. So I started putting a few clips on Twitter and stuff like that. And I think a word started to go out a bit. And the thing is like, I'm here to make content, right? That's my role here in all of this. But there was also like, this guy seems to be doing some pretty fucked up shit. I want people to at least see, the Emperor's got no clothes, if nothing else. So I put a few clips on Twitter, and then eventually I think Destiny watched one of them on stream. And Destiny's perception was that before watching this clip of mine is that Dr. K was just using like Ayurveda and dosha, whatever it is like a sort of like a story or some sort of way of connecting with someone. But then the clips that I'd had were like him making, very strong, almost like empirical claim. Well, some are empirical claims about what Ayurveda can and can't do. And so I think when he saw one of those clips, he was a bit more like, oh yeah, this isn't, I didn't think it was like this, but I don't know if he really kind of went into it further from there. But yeah,
I think on that panel then. I thought you were
Which
on the one
panel?
with him and Wicked when Destiny basically said it might be the case that, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm probably pretty close. He said it might be the case that looking at it through this like dosha Ayurvedic lens might lead us to answers that we wouldn't get otherwise. And to me, it just kind of sounded like somebody saying it might be the case that if we sacrifice a chicken 3 hours after the full moon reaches its apex, then we might end up finding out something that we wouldn't have before. Like, sure, you can say that, but like, it doesn't mean there's any additional like real value. Like, people find out discoveries by mistake all the time. We shouldn't endorse it and say it's like comparable to science. You
Yeah, I
know?
think the thing that I found with that whole because my expectation because I knew that like the Dr. K stuff was like pretty much the talk of the town. Like a lot of people were talking about it. It was like the drama arc I think that everyone was kind of on, in one way or another.
It was
So I
for
kind of
sure.
so when Destiny spoke because I always perceive Destiny to be someone who is like a very kind of like logical, evidence based kind of person and so on. So when his takes on Ayurveda were like in my mind like kind of soft, especially when he sort of talked about like Dr. K doing a greater good, more so in relation to Max's points, but talking about Dr. K doing a greater good and stuff like that, I was a bit like, man, like I really didn't think he'd land on this issue this way. But hey, it is what it is. We ended up having a conversation about it, and it was kind of like pretty chill. But yeah, in any case, it was kind of like what is going on, and I think that I don't know why Destiny didn't kind of get more involved in terms of like watching the video and responding to the video and so on. I don't know if there's any personal feelings there that got in the way of that, but yeah, I think that it was surprising to see Destiny kind of not take such a strong interest in like Max's video. I think, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, like, I feel like it was really bad for Mr. Girl that it's like Destiny basically pretended like the video didn't happen. He buried his head under League of Legends for 2 weeks, said he was gonna watch it when he got time, and then didn't, and then just sort of came out and defended Dr. K on like the Ayurveda stuff. It was that whole thing was like really confusing to me, and like I guess it's just not for me to understand. Because I'm never really gonna get the answers. And it just always struck me as really weird, and I think that it sort of helped the narrative that because like when something huge happens, like this is the first time that people kind of got into the people were more focused on whether Mr. Grill was okay to be on Twitch with the pedophilia stuff than they were actually interested in having the conversation he was trying to have. But with the Dr. K thing, like all of Twitch overnight was like, this is all that fucking matters. This is the biggest story we've ever heard in our lives. This is all we're going to talk about for the next 2 weeks. And Destiny was like, I don't want to do that. And I've never seen Destiny not get involved with like the biggest story. So it seemed like kind of by omission he was taking credibility away because everybody looks to him. He's like he's the guy. He's the guy who comes in with like the clear-headed rational take like you said. And since he didn't do that and then like sort of like turned around and defended on like the B plot, uh it seemed like I guess it was all really confusing to like the like it had to be confusing to the average viewer. I was confused by it, and it seemed like it took a lot of wind out of the sails of um the whole Dr. K thing from like Max's side because eventually he just sort of got pushed out of the conversation. A lot of people were talking about it without him, and it sort of broke up into these little subplots too. Uh, so it was really weird to see that whole thing go down. And I don't. Do you think the Dr. K thing did more harm than good for Mr. Girl? I think it probably did good for him.
yeah. I think that overall there were people who maybe had some conceptions from the pedophile kind of discussions and talks. And I think that overall it improved like the perception of him. Although what I would say is that was kind of balanced with I think some people thought that some of the way that he went about things was, to put it lightly, not the best idea. Like some of his tweeting behavior, I think some people were like, this guy sounds unhinged. I can't remember exactly what he said in the tweets, but I think there was this perception that he was kind of overstating what was going on, particularly early on. And, you know, I think people thought he was being very like erratic and you know, a bit firing from the hip. But I think when you watch the video in its totality, you could maybe understand why he went about it like that. But it's almost like it's the wrong way round, because before he's really showed anyone the full extent of what's going on, he's acting like, you know, oh my god, this crazy shit's happening. Really, you need to see the video in order to understand, I think,
Yeah.
why Max is so like in such a heightened state and such a heightened like pushing of this when he talks about it.
Yeah, and I think maybe I get it when I originally went to college, I was going for psychology. And because life happens, I wasn't able to finish, but I plan on going back soon. And I'm just really like, I guess that's still really there for me. Like I really care about mental health. Where I grew up for a large part of my life was it's a really like a large rural area, and a lot of people had mental health issues. And it was like one place everybody went to the same place for mental health services, and it was always overcrowded. And I always seen like a lot of issues, like people constantly getting their meds changed and it wrecking their lives for a couple of weeks. So I was like, this seems important. So I really did like a lot of my own research on it. I said I was going to go to school for it, and I really think that the whole Dr. K thing was really important to me, because I didn't know how little the average person understood about like mental health care. Like I know that obviously people don't care enough, because there's not people like when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and people are like out in the streets getting rightfully mad. If you're that passionate about it, I'm all for it. I'm not speaking how I feel about that, but like people are like really energized, but nobody is that energized about something that affects all of us. Like Roe v. Wade does to some degree, but like to a good degree. Sorry, I'm not trying to downplay, but like it's people not getting good mental health services and us not funding mental health research is that affects society at every level, and people don't care. And when we can look at something that seems like Mr. Girl would say, common sense, that this is terrible and it shouldn't happen, and you have like more than one or two people with a voice saying like, this was fine, that freaks me out. I talked to my therapist about it before, and she was like, she tried not to get too heavy with it. She's like, that's not right. I talked to my psychiatrist about it on Wednesday, and the look on his face made it feel like I hurt him. He's a sweet old man, and his face twisted up in horror. And at the end of it, he by the time I was done telling him, I gave him like a 2-minute version, just the facts. At the end of it, he's like, he killed him. And I was like, I would just say that he stopped him from getting the care he needed. And then I watched him kind of come back down, like out of his head. He's like, yeah. And it terrified him. So like when Mr. Girl says that, like, there was people that said like, I couldn't even finish watching it. It was so bad. I saw that happen firsthand last Wednesday. I think if he started watching the first 5 minutes of it, he would have like cried. I think it would have really messed my psychiatrist up, and he seems like he's been doing it a long time.
Yeah,
People don't
I
get
think
it.
that I think one of the misconceptions I think that people have is that, oh, it's Mr. Girl just saying he's done something wrong. And I'm thinking, well, if you watch the video, there's medical professionals whose job it is, one of them, whose job it is to deal with this exact conversation, that are saying it's wrong. Now, you might disagree with that, but I don't, you know, in terms of their assessment of it, fine. But fundamentally, yes, there are people that aren't Mr. Girl that work in the profession that are saying, no, this is wrong. Um, you know, so I think that you've got to at least give some credit for that. And I think one thing that he did really well in the video is he just wasn't in it. So
Yeah.
that kind of brand risk, I guess, of Mr. Girl was completely removed, because you don't even see his face in the entire video. And I think that was a good choice.
I don't think it was just a good choice. I think that it was it showed the level of importance it had to him, because he's in
Yeah.
all of his videos. He likes to give his narrative and his voice, like he likes to do all the stuff. He likes to be in it. And he removed himself from it. That's an enormous statement from coming from a showman like Mr. Girl. Like when you look at just how he does his lighting and his music, every part of the things that he makes seems really important to him. For him to remove himself from it is saying that's so important that I'm willing to not be a direct part of my end result of my art. Um, and it really when people say it's like for clout or something like that, if it was for clout or to get attention, and then I think Mr. Girl would be if that was the case, then he's stupid because he risked his career on that. He was
Yeah, I mean, this guy is a prominent like content creator, and he's in the wing of Twitch, even like Twitch work with this Dr. K
yeah.
guy. Um, and I think that it was like the kind of endless charity. I think that's looking back on it now. That was the thing that just annoyed me the most, and why I got so angry, because you couldn't, for some people, there's nothing you could say that would demonstrate this guy had done anything wrong. He was just a bastion of hope for mental health amongst gamers. Everything he was doing was, you couldn't question it. And it was, if you're against this guy, you're against the idea of mental health for gamers. And then there was the stuff like, oh, I can't believe that you're, taking advantage of Rekful's tragic suicide like this by talking about this, and it's just like, okay, so we're
It's
not allowed
very
to
ironic to
question at
say.
all. Yeah, very ironic to say about Dr. K, but the idea
Yeah.
that it's like a chilling effect, right? Like, you're not allowed to talk about this. You can't talk about this because it's offending the memory of him or whatever, and just really silly points. And yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and so one of the things I'm really interested in is so he went from pedophilia to essentially making the case to put Dr. K on trial for his crimes. That, well, at least from Max's perspective, I'm not saying really one way or another. I think it's obvious how I feel anyway. But he seems to come out stronger from these things in a way that like nobody else does. And that's kind of one of the really big focal points of the video that I'm making is why is it that he's like uncancelable? It's like he grows when people like when he does something that would get somebody else canceled, instead he gets more popular. That's crazy. It's not just that he's bulletproof. It's like he feeds on bullets. It's like sustenance, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think the reason for this is? Like what is it that he has that what is it about Mr. Girl that lets him take the things that would kill anyone else and absorb it into him and just make him more powerful?
So I think that when it comes to like the idea of cancel culture and stuff like that, and these criticisms and people trying to like remove him and stuff like that, you note that the times that Mr. Girl has been most up against it has been the times when like his Twitch channel got removed, the stuff with YouTube that's happened. So I think that the key point there is often the people that do the cancelling often are just they're paper tigers when you really get down to it. All they can really do is like complain on social media about you. It's only when they can go after the mechanisms by which you earn money that's when things can get bad, because you know they can put pressure on a company to maybe remove you, or even just use the reporting tools to remove you. And if you get removed from a platform, that's it. You're kind of screwed then. And I think that the reality is when people are mad at you and they're talking about you, generally speaking, that's generally going to benefit you if you play it right. The only time at which that can have a negative impact, really, aside from like say mental health impact or something, in terms of being cancelled, is if you make the decision, I'm getting too much shit from everyone, I'm going to stop doing this, I'm going to delete this account, I'm going to delete that account, and so on. Now we live in the age of the Giga Chad now, so biting the bullet on crazy positions, there's definitely an audience that's probably even growing for that. People like to watch people that are just absolutely willing to like, accept and agree with create what seem to be crazy, insane principles in order to try and be sort of consistent. And I think
That's
that
true.
as much as you've got people that really are going to criticize and sort of, you know, try and destroy and all this kind of stuff. You've also got people that are growing, I think, that are more interested in that. So it's kind of like a double-edged thing where, yes, there's this people that want to destroy you who and want you off the platform and stuff, but there's also a lot of supporters that you can gain by kind of taking this approach and taking this mentality. And it is quite refreshing, you know. So I think those are probably the main reasons I see as why Mr. Girl doesn't really seem to have disappeared, despite a lot of people wanting him to.
Well, yeah, and despite the fact that like we've seen people taken down for less.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, and I guess the next one I have for you is kind of in the same vein. Like, what do you think? Just in terms of like navigating like through like the cancel culture and just like certain parts of the community just not wanting to engage with him and like actively going against him. Like, what do you think the things that I guess the really simple way to put this is like, what do you think is his like his biggest strengths and his biggest weaknesses here?
Well, it's funny you say that because obviously we actually just had a conversation about this. But I think that Mr. Girl's
Well, I do know what you
um,
think his greatest weakness is actually, yeah, but
yeah, so I think that his biggest strength is just his willing is kind of willingness to just accept and bite down on positions that most people would not want to in order to be consistent. Um, I think he's like super entertaining personally. I think he's a funny guy. Um, and yeah, you know, obviously really like his content. In terms of like weaknesses, yeah, I think that for this space, he's not. Sometimes he needs to do a better job, I think, of just moderating. I mean, I first said this as he's too emotionally honest, but I think what I actually came to after speaking to him is more so that he just needs to, you know, consider that if like a conversation he's having is actually working and doing what he wants it to do, or is he just coming across really badly because he's engaging with something in, you know, a very honest way and being very open and emotional, and that then ends up looking really kind of bad on him, you know?
do,
So yeah, I think that's kind of where I am with it.
do you think that he could do those things and still have without sacrificing like the quality that would make him Mr. Girl to like somebody like me? Because I
Um,
think if he backed down on things in that way for that reason, like I don't think I'd ever have a problem with him saying like I don't want to talk about that. I've heard him say it a lot, and it's never bothered me. But I think that if I seen him being less emotionally honest, I'd be like something's wrong.
I
I
think
don't
yeah,
like this.
I think it's more so just about not if he genuinely doesn't want to hide or not show his genuine feelings or emotions about something. I think the best situation would be to um, just cut something off and say, right, you know, I don't want to talk about this anymore, or you know, we aren't getting anywhere. Let's move on, or whatever it is. Um, but yeah, I think part of the emotional honesty is obviously what makes Mr. Girl Mr. Girl. So I don't know if it's as simple as just pretend not to be angry.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a more nuanced approach that needs to be taken if he wants to retain the kind of heart and soul of what he's doing.
Yeah, I think it would be I think it would be tough to handle because there's nobody I don't think there's nobody that like really puts their feelings out there like that. And I think it adds a real sense of legitimacy to anybody who hasn't immediately dismissed him. And like right now there's like somebody asked him yesterday and he did bite down the bullet a little bit. If he thinks that he's been very vocal about being afraid that the money from this fact this being his full-time job would change the way he makes content. And he says, well, it's inevitable to some degree. Um, and I think that I feel like if he changed too much in the direction that you had suggested on the stream, that there would be a bigger consensus in the community that he's changing for the worse. Because I think that it would be really easy to see those changes and go, well, he's just doing it for the money now. And I think that would break the hearts of some people who really appreciated honest emotional art. Um,
Mm.
so like my favorite video is how I became a people pleaser because it was raw and it was so it was I don't want to say it was like watching like a car crash because it was beautiful, really. But it was like ugly and uncomfortable at the same time. And I've never really seen anybody put themselves out there like that and say so many things that most people would consider to be humiliating and embarrassing. And maybe they were for him too. I don't know. But it was inspiring. Do you ever? And I know you're a pretty bombastic guy. I don't know if it's a super easy question to answer, but do you ever see any Mr. Girl's videos, like main channel, that like you thought were like really impactful on you at all? That kind of
Um,
helped you like connect with like do you really felt a strong connection with the art, or like you moved or anything like that?
um,
Don't worry,
I
he'll never
think,
see this.
I think, no, no, no. I think the video he did about the Black Lives Matter narrative,
Hmm.
um, because that I watched that, I guess, pretty soon after the Carl Rittenhouse stuff, and I had my own discontent with some of the stuff around like Black Lives Matter. Um, you know, like that, like I don't know, like how to explain it succinctly, but just some frustrations in some of the way they spoke about things, and this frustration, I guess, in like, no, you have to, this is something I've experienced for a long time as like a lefty person. It's like, no, Black Lives Matter. You have to support Black Lives Matter. Come on, what do you mean you can't not support Black? You're on the left. What do you mean Black Lives Matter? They're the best. Da, da, da. And so I watched that video, and there were moments in that where he kind of highlighted, like, look, Black Lives Matter included um, someone being chased by the police, admittedly, but they included that person when they crashed into a pole and died. They included that as if they'd been like murdered by the police, like as if a police officer had gone and like shot them dead.
Yeah.
And it was, that presentation and that discussion and that willingness to say, hey, look, there's a bit more nuance here. I think, really did speak to me. And yeah, it kind of just really cemented my beliefs that actually, do you know what? There isn't, you don't have to follow the orthodoxy of whatever this group that you're supposedly on the same side is saying. If there's stuff, and this is particularly after like the Carl Rittenhouse stuff and so on, it was like, yeah, you're okay to question things that you look at and you think are wrong, and it's okay to say, hey, this is bullshit, this is bullshit, this is bullshit, even if there's more of an agreement with the overarching ideal or the overarching concept. If there's things that are happening within it that are wrong, like, call that shit out, because some of the stuff just doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense to you as someone is on the left and generally supports the concept of like pushing back against police violence against minorities, how is that going to land with someone who isn't on your side and who is going to be looking for
Yes.
holes and who is going to be picking stuff apart? You need to have answers to those questions, or at least be able to concede, hey, yeah, that was bullshit, that was bullshit, that was bullshit. And there's stuff that happened following that as well, I think, following that really kind of like cemented that further. Like when Black Lives Matter came out after Jussie Smollett had been prosecuted as whatever he got prosecuted for, and it turned out his story wasn't true.
Yeah.
And this Black Lives Matter statement came out and said like, "Oh, we support Jussie Smollett, the working towards black voices or some shit." And it's like, this
Like,
dude just
ooh,
got fucking
no.
prosecuted for like, why do this? This is insane. So it's like, you see stuff happen, then you're like, no, I am right to say this is bullshit, this is bullshit, this is bullshit. If it is, and that doesn't change my fundamental views. It's just calling out what I think is wrong.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if your goal is really to support the people that are being harmed by police unjustly, or if you just really want to wield some social power, which is bad because that's what people on the right already think about it. And if you don't talk about it, then you're kind of giving them all they need to justify their behavior against you. Yeah, I liked that
Yeah.
video a lot too. Um, it's that what you just talked about too. I think I hope at least that people that watch that they see that as a broader issue, just in politics in general. Because that's what I got out of it too. I just thought like the parallels between the problems he pointed out, the Black Lives Matter movement that nobody wants to talk about, is the same thing we see with people on the like extreme left that don't want to admit that like some of their ideas are crazy. Like you can have some good ideas, but like you should probably work on the bad ones. And I don't know. It's just you're not the first person to tell me that was the one that really got them. And so I hope that yeah, I guess did you draw those parallels to all the other things that I just sort of listed off between how like
Yeah,
Black Lives Matter and like just the political landscape today is?
yeah, definitely. And I think it's like really moving away from this idea that the left is correct about everything and the right is just wrong about everything. Um, and accepting that like fundamentally maybe the views are different, and I do think that obviously I've got massive disagreements with maybe some of the fundamental views, but
Yeah.
like I think I wonder sometimes if the reason people were so hardcore on the Rittenhouse thing wasn't even just because of their personal views, but it's that the right was so sure about it, and the right happened to be largely correct in their analysis of the Rittenhouse case, and the left just wanted to be in opposition to that rather than actually think about it and go, what do I actually think about this based on what I'm seeing? It's, oh, well, the other side's again, the other side is saying one thing, so I've got to say the opposite. And I think these team sports, come into it a lot, and there's not that step back to go, well, let me just have a think and think about what do I think? What do I think based on the information I've got? And you
Yeah.
see this like police shootings are such a good example because every time someone is shot by the police, the left is saying they're a murderer, they're a fucking bad police officer, they need to be fired, they need to be da da da. And then the right are going, oh, no, he was no angel, the police officer, had no choice. So it's like instantly you see that sort of, you know, diversion in thought. And it's like, at what point are we going to take a step back and go, well, hey, let's not think about our political tribes. Let's think about what are the facts, what are the evidence, and what conclusions do we come to? And more importantly, what do we do to prevent this from happening again if something bad has happened? And it just seems like that is just missing, and it's just constant narrative spinning about whatever the matter at hand is.
Yeah, and I think I really like that about Mr. Grizz's Rittenhouse video was really good. I I had a friend of mine, a close friend of mine on stream, to talk about Rittenhouse like a year, like almost a year to the date before the trial, and two separate friendships ended over that. He stopped being friends with me and a mutual friend after that conversation just because I didn't agree with him on that, and like I agree with him on like 95% of other things. Like I said, I'm a lefty. I just don't have to agree with everybody who's on the left about everything. And like Mr. Girl is pretty left, but people on the left seem to be. Well, I don't know. He pisses everybody off. That's cool. That's chill. But like a lot of the stuff that he talks about, I think a lot of people on the left don't think that he is because of he doesn't agree with some of the most passionate things that they do 100%. I think even on like the trans thing, which is like the next big arc he had, I think he agrees with most people on the left about most things concerning trans issues. It's just those couple of things he disagrees with them on are deal breakers.
I think that with the trans issue thing, it seems to me like he, you know, agrees with like the idea of respecting people and referring to them the way they want to be referred to. Um, the kind of things that substantively matter. But what where it falls apart is he's just got this personal belief. You can't you can't change his mind no matter what fucking science shit you show him. This is his belief that like a man cannot become a woman. And I think because conservatives say that, right? What
Yeah.
people do is they think, oh, he's got the conservative position, which means we should be shitty to trans people and they shouldn't have any rights, and so on and so on and so on. But actually, he's got this belief, but he also believes other things which you would probably agree with them on, like you should refer to people with the pronouns they prefer, you should use the name that they prefer, and so on and so on.
Yeah, and I don't even think that it's like one of the things that he said is that he doesn't want to call Elliot Page or Ellen Page. He doesn't want to call Elliot Page Elliot Page. He wants to call him Ellen Page. But if he's seen him in person, he would say Elliot. Um, and I was really surprised that he didn't bring that up because I was thinking it was during the Rose Wrist, and I'm surprised that he didn't bring that up later too because I feel like that's how most people act towards most people most of the time. Like I feel like most people say the N-word when they sing rap songs, but not if they're around people who might get offended. I don't. I feel like that. I feel like a lot of the things that he says about how we should treat trans, well, how he treats trans people is perfectly equivalent to how people act towards people when they're around and when they're not. And I don't know. Everybody acts like it's super out of left field, and I think they just don't want to be associated with it. And now I don't. That the whole the his trans videos are probably where I break away from him the most in my personal views. But I've never. I guess the best way to put this is I never get mad when somebody's wrong. You can be wrong all you want. I get mad when people are wrong for stupid fucking reasons. Everything that Mr. Girl put out on the trans things, where I didn't agree with him, I was like, I think you're wrong, but you're wrong for the right reasons. You're consistent with how you think about it. You're not like I can ask you anything and you're gonna have the same premise. I'm not gonna like catch you in something and then have you change your reasoning or anything like that. I understand why you think the way that you think. And at least it's that. It's not coming from a place of hate. It's coming from a place of well thought out, well reasoned idea that I just happen to think that you're wrong about. And that's really rare for me. I think most of the time when I disagree with somebody really strongly, I think they're wrong for the wrong reasons. Like when people are mad about gay marriage, I never hear anybody have like a good rational reason why. You know, or usually when people are mad about trans people existing, it's usually that they just make up some weird bullshit so that they're allowed to be mad, and that's not where he came from. But people were still real mad.
Well, yeah, because
He just didn't make me
the funny
mad.
thing is as well, when I watched the video that he did about Elliot Page, I could feel where he was coming from. In that, I remember when I was younger, when I was like probably 18 or 19, I guess, I really liked the Matrix films, and I found out that the people that directed it, the Wachowskis, they were I think one of them came out as trans first, and another one came out as trans. And obviously, I was young, uneducated on these things, didn't really know what was what, and yeah, it felt shit. You know, obviously now I don't feel the same way. I'm very woke when it comes to trans issues, but like at the time, it felt like I felt hurt by it, right? And I could feel that is almost it seemed like that's what Mr. Girl is experiencing. Is that feeling of hurt of like, you know, I've engaged with your art in a certain way, and you're taking that away from me. It's funny to think about as well that, you know, the Matrix is a you know, a story that has got implications of being about like trans issues, right? Like the whole idea is
It's a metaphor.
it's a metaphor for being trans, yeah. And obviously, I just thought it was a cool action film, you know, young me. But yeah, I think that I could kind of understand. Obviously, I disagree where he's coming from, but I understood the kind of what he was feeling, I guess. So I think in the times that I've spoken to him about trans issues, I've given up. I've given up because it just feels like whenever you get down to the root of something, it's just, well, he says that's the way I feel about it, and I'm like, you know, well, that might be how you feel about it, but that's not necessarily what this study says or something. But it just seems pointless. But yeah, that's kind of where I am with it, I guess.
Sure. I think for me, because I can get pretty rowdy in my personal life when I'm talking to somebody, and I'm having a hard time getting through. But I think to just hearing them say, well, my ideas aren't based on that, and I have too strong of a feeling and I can't be changed on it, that's more of a relief to me than somebody arguing with me. Thank you. That no, actually, they are based on science, and I'm just looking at bad science.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd rather hear somebody bite the bullet and say like, well, I just don't think my opinion can be changed because that's how I feel. Than well, everybody like I don't know. It's like when like with COVID, people say like, well, the science that I read says that COVID isn't real. Like, motherfucker, that's not science. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to me. You're full of shit. I don't believe you. I can't grapple with that. that makes me go insane. But when Mr. Girl says I can't, or I don't think I can change my opinion no matter what. Because like usually, I know I'm sure you've seen like a lot of debates and stuff where you're at. People will say like, what would it take to change your mind? And then somebody will give an impossible to produce thing. To sort of be like, well, of course I'm open-minded enough. So if you could show me insert impossible scenario here, I'd be happy to change my mind. And then kind of like internal smug. They're basically saying the same thing as Mr. Girl, but they're hiding behind the idea that they are completely rational when it comes to the subject. And I guess the reason why I kind of reflecting out the things that I get from it is because I wonder if that's what if you think that the average person, or maybe even you, see value in those things. Because like I know that it's frustrating to you when you're talking to him and he says, well, that's just the way I feel. But maybe do you think that there's a value to that over the kind of stuff that we're used to seeing and hearing when somebody stops the conversation?
Yeah, I think like privately it's a different matter because you're just having a chat and it's like anything. You can, say you're with your friends at the having a beer, you're talking and you have a disagreement and you kind of hash it out, you agree to disagree and you move on. I think the public performance of it is what makes it frustrating because when you're like someone who talks about this stuff, there's sometimes a feeling that you've got to it's so important that you get this right and it's so important that you prove the other person wrong. It's something I don't really care about that much anymore, but there's this real feeling that, oh, you've got to do the best possible job and like there's so much at stake, as if like if I don't argue this exactly right, then the rights of minorities are going to be stripped away tomorrow and that's going to be it, when obviously that's absurd. Like the stakes are nowhere near that high. The worst is you might look a bit stupid if you don't argue your case in a good way and you'll get criticized. So I think that publicly it can maybe be a bit frustrating, but I think also, it just kind of, it's nice to be able to get to a point where it's like, you don't have to do this study off. You don't have to say, oh, I'm going to produce this study, I'm going to produce that study, and everyone's bored. If someone just says, that's the way I feel about it, you can kind of just leave it there and move on. Like, if that's how you feel, I feel a different way and you're not having your mind changed. So, I'm not changing my mind. So let's just talk about something else,
Yeah. I was hoping you'd say something like that because I would it makes it easier for me to understand. I think one of the things that I find really interesting about the relationship between you guys is that I feel like the main common factor between you guys is that you're both funny. Otherwise, like Max is like, you guys like on the like exact opposite sides of the spectrum as far as like he is the most open person I've ever seen on a screen. Maybe except for, well, shit, I was gonna say maybe except for people doing porn, but like he's even done porn.
Yeah.
And you are very private, and not that there's anything wrong with that. So it's really funny to see you guys engage, and you guys kind of like I don't remember which one of you addressed. I think Mr. Girl said something about like it just, you don't operate the same way that he does. Is it is it harder or easier to make the kind of content you want to with them because of that?
Yeah, I think that if it because the thing is because I think well, am I that close? I talk about my kids sometimes, but when I talk about my kids, it's not because I want people to know about my private life. It's more so because I think something funny's happened and I want to make people laugh. So it's like it's not like I'm being like open because I want to be open and I want people to know about me and see my true self. I just want to make people laugh, and I think that's a good way to do it sometimes. But yeah, I think that does make us quite a good duo, I guess, because it works well that he's kind of like so open a lot of the time and is willing to just say anything. And I think there's a lot of funny moments that come out of that, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess you can say the loud part funny and he can say the quiet part out loud, which is inherently
Yes.
funny.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't know if we directly if I directly asked this, but I said I'd like to get a better understanding. Like, do you consider him like a legitimate friend not just a coworker? Do you guys consider each other like legitimate friends? Because like the displays of loyalty I've seen between you guys is like kind of inspiring.
Yeah, I think that I'd say so, yeah, because the thing is that, and this kind of links us back into the kind of story, I guess, but it's like when that Fnatic panel happened, right?
Mm.
It's like I was frustrated because my morals, I guess, were being questioned by Doobie, who was trying to like trigger something in me. And it felt like, and Destiny was trying to wind me up as well, which is fine. It's all good memes. I don't mind. But it almost felt like it felt like the only person that could truly understand me is Mr. Girl, because he, as more so than me, gone through the ringer with this. He's been a lot more prominent in his discourse about this. So, he gets the frustration and he gets the anger, and then the fact he wasn't there because he was messaging me and I was trying to get him on because I, was like, I want to get him on. So I kept mentioning it, kept mentioning it. And then I kind of went off. And then I thought, well, Mr. Ghost, when are you going to go on? That'll be that. But then when he went on, and he refused to
Yeah.
stay without me being on, like, that was a big display of loyalty and probably one of the biggest displays of loyalty I've seen in some time. The last time was
Yeah.
probably when I had my controversy and, people stuck by me. But that was like, holy shit, that's crazy. And then we went and did our own panel. That was like a big moment, I think, of like solidarity, I guess you could say.
Also, a
Um,
big dick move on everybody's part who went on that panel. I remember Howard from my wife. I was like, lady, oh my god, like, come here for a minute. I know you don't care, but you're gonna listen to me tell you what the fuck just happened here because it was funny and moving. Like I said, like being in a room with Destiny and Anna, like you even have the power to maybe make that fucking shit show ignite, like the potential for just a giant shit bomb to go off in there is
yeah.
like god tier content. And I mean I feel like you're more like aware of that than like Max would have been, but like it was really nice in the arena where people really seem to only care about themselves. Friendships are made up and not real. Like I don't think you can fake giving up a spot in a situation that could go so wrong.
Well, yeah, because the thing is, obviously, I knew that like me fucking pushing this was pushing Fnatic's buttons. Um,
Yeah.
but I was like, yeah, this is like, it was frustrating because it's like, look, my thought, because it seemed like Fnatic wasn't going to bring it on at all, and I thought, why the fuck would you arrange all this? And then Mr. Girl is there, literally waiting to come on to give his input on this stuff he's put so much into, and you're going to keep all of these people, some of who haven't even fucking watched his video about it, and you're going to keep them talking about this. Like, they're stupid. It's fucking insane. And I just my frustration was like, yeah, come on, get him on. Like, what the hell? And then when it was like, I'm getting kicked, it's like, fucking hell, what the fuck? And then obviously my infamous words, dusty ass panel, and exited my lips, and a meme was born, as they say. And yeah, then obviously Mr. Girl went on, and he decided to not stay, and it was a great like piece of content that just came about organically. It just
Yeah.
kind of came out of nowhere, and it just sort of came together. And yeah, it's probably one of my favorite moments of like making content is that panel. And yeah, it sort of like solidified, I think, because we'd already bonded somewhat over the Mr. Girl stuff, over the Dr. K stuff. And I think that moment just really solidified that, like, hey, ride or die type mentality.
Yeah, I think it feels good to me to hear that that was really big and important for you because you said it was really organic. That felt like one of the most genuine things I'd seen on Twitch for like the 5 or 6 years that I've watched like Twitch politics stuff. It just felt good. It felt good to see something real, and I feel like you kind of confirmed that. It made me smile real big when you said that it was one of
Yeah.
your favorites. Because I think that is for as silly as you are, you're one of the realest people still on here. Because like everybody, a lot of people are getting cropped, but I feel like you don't really filter anything, and it was just good. It was wholesome. It was like legitimately wholesome. It wasn't like factory farmed wholesomeness for views. And then your guys' own panel, and then you guys got Anna on too. It was that whole night was just fucking awesome. I was playing a new game and that came out. I was like, this is good. Like this isn't like
Yeah.
this isn't like normal Twitch shit show good. It's just good. Uh, and every once in a while, Mr. Girl creates these moments where it's good and it feels good to like enjoy it. And I like that a lot. So,
yeah, no, and you know, I think that kind of solidified things. But the funny thing about it is, like, I think that if you actually look at content we've done together, somehow it's just turned out that the times that I've made content, it's been generally stuff that's kind of critical of him in some way. Not me personally necessarily, but at the very least, me bringing people on to give him some shit about something. So we did the follow up thing to the Dr. K. We brought people on, and people sort of questioned him on that. And then we did the transfer culture panel, which when I was
yeah.
sort of in opposition to what you thought. And then there was also this 2 hours hate, which came about following that too. And then obviously I spoke to him recently and gave him some criticisms about the erudite conversation. So it's like everything I've done has been in content wise publicly has been like, hey, you've done something wrong, or I disagree with you, or some people I know want to talk to you that disagree with you. So let's kind of hash it out. But still there's this sort of meme that I'm like, you know, going around parading my friendship with Mr. Girl. And it's like it's not really like that. Like, you know, it's just like most of the content I make is critical of him in some way, right?
Yeah, but like, isn't that what friendship is? So like, when somebody doesn't like me, they're gonna be really underhanded in how they operate. That they're gonna try to get other people to think differently of me in really like underhanded ways, to like kind of mislead people into coming up with their own conclusions. But if I'm at the bar with my buddy and I see him checking out a waitress, because he's really interested into her, the way that I would fuck with him would be the honest way. If I'm gonna call him out and be like, hey, hey, my buddy thinks that you're really hot. That's gonna be the way a friend would, you know, put his buddy under the gun. I think the ways that you do it are probably the same ways that I would fuck with my friends. Or like if I'm with a group of friends, I'd be like, hey, Ted said he thinks your wife is fat. You wanna go talk to him about that? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I guess I've seen panels that or conversations about Mr. Girl that were kind of designed to like take him down, so to speak. It's a much different tone than when you bring people on. And I'm not saying that you don't think there's legitimate problems, but I guess it's how I would expect somebody in this space to do it. I don't think that your intentions are to take him down. I think that your intentions are to bring up a legitimate criticism in a way that's also not trying to like fuck him over. I don't think that intent is there, and it shows.
And the other thing as well is like, because I remember when he first came around, he was like, I don't want to do debates. Like debates aren't my thing. And I think he's kind of softened somewhat on that. And we'll have people on that are maybe a bit more contentious. But I like the idea of like bringing people on that are going to give him some shit, because it just normally results in really funny content, because, you know, they'll say something to him and he'll just be like, yep. And it'll just be a funny moment.
If they want to get him on the thing and like in the first 5 minutes, he's like, oh yeah, you can have that. I did that. It's fine.
Yeah.
And like, oh, well, now I don't know what to do with all my anger.
Yeah.
So after I don't did you waver at all when the real doll stuff happened?
So that's so basically, well, I think before that actually there was the old man laundry video, and that I guess is another part of the story. Because I watched that and kind of reacted to it on stream, and I gave my sort of takes on it. And me and old man laundry, we didn't end up speaking on stream, but we, you know, did talk about it privately. And basically, like, because my take on that video was like, whilst I think there's some things here that like might make me not want to date Mr. Girl, to me, the stuff that was being shown struck me primarily, like in terms of the relationship stuff, primarily as like, here's a really dark aspect of relationships you don't always see. Me and my missus arguing about something. Check this out. Watch this. You know, it was like shining a light on some of the worst aspects of your relationship. And I think that people tried to frame it as he was this kind of hardcore abuser. And, you know, I think that although like there's some like I say, I would say I don't want to date Mr. Girl. It sounds like he's a fucking nightmare to date. But there was this kind of call or feeling, I think, to like condemn him on the basis of that old man laundry video. And some people,
Yeah.
like, you know, without naming names, even reached out to me and said, "Are you sure you want to continue making content with this guy? Like, look at this video; it's really bad." And I kind of had to
That
just knock it back
video?
and say, "Yeah, I just kind of knock it back and say, look, I just don't see it the way you see it. This is my view on it, and we can disagree on it. It's fine, but I have no intentions of like cutting Mr. Girl off." So yeah, I think particularly around that time, and maybe a little bit around the Real Doll video, there was definitely like this kind of push to like disassociate or something. And the thing is, as well, it would feel like really dishonest to do that too, because it's like, you know, to come out and be like, well, I'm not making content with this guy anymore. It just seems like such a kind of dishonest way to like to deal with things. I don't know. I just didn't like the idea of doing that.
It's either like you're
Um,
covering your own ass just to get out of the
yes.
kitchen, or you're just trying to add like you're just looking for a way to like attack him by adding legitimacy to do something somebody else did, and you didn't want to take the stand yourself.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Like, you know, because the true feeling was, um, you know, like, am I seeing stuff here that makes me feel uncomfortable? And I'm like, oh god, I don't like this. This is like not a pleasant experience to see this happening. Yeah, obviously they're having a fucking like argument, full blown at some points in that video.
who looks good
But
in an
like,
argument with their significant other? Nobody.
well, this is what I thought. My understanding, because obviously it had been presented in this video. I hadn't seen the original context exactly, but my vague understanding was that yeah, it's like vlogging some shitty argument you're having, and it's part of like, oh, look at how shit things can be in a relationship type situation. But yeah, I think that that old man laundry thing, following on from the real doll stuff, I think that do you know, to this day, because it was on YouTube but it got removed. I'd intended to watch it on a YouTube stream but didn't get around to it, and then I think it got removed, and I
Oh, it's
never
on.
ended up watching it.
It's
Is it on
still
YouTube
available.
again?
Yeah, because a couple nights ago, I tried to show my wife how unwatchable it was because of the audio.
Hmm.
Uh, and I seen my comment and your comment were right next to each other's. This was like 2 nights ago. I said something about the audio, I think. I don't remember what I said, but I seen you trying to reach out to talk to him on it. Yeah, it's the same video you saw
Oh, sorry, no,
originally.
I'm talking. No, sorry, I'm talking about the real doll video, not the old man laundry video.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah.
It's not on YouTube anymore? Oh, that's like one of my favorites. I've watched it like 5 times.
So basically, yeah, because I did never got around to watching it, and obviously the other thing as well is because I stream mainly on Twitch. I can't. It's difficult to. I think Twitch are very hard line. If you watch Mr. Girl's content, you're gonna get fucking like
Oh.
banned probably or like suspended. So it, you know, I kind of I watched some clips of it, and yeah, I mean it seemed
Oh no, Chud, it's art. You still
okay.
haven't watched it offline or nothing?
No. I'll apparently it's on his website. People are telling me,
Yeah.
but has that got the sex bit in? I don't want, you know, the
No,
sex bit. I'm
just
not sure about that.
maybe after we're done, I'll go to it and I'll just I'll send you the timestamp of where to start. Because even I didn't really like the sex stuff. I kind of had my window so I could move the window down, so I didn't have to see his dick. And like it was like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm like kind of I have like my green screen behind me, so I have at least a buffer, and I have like one headphone off so I can hear if like my kid comes out of their room, and I'm like, all right, and I'm watching like, oh yep, he's grabbing his dick again. I'm gonna move the window down. So it is very convenient that like the dick is in the bottom part of the screen, so I could still get the overall scene without
Overall
having to see
vibe.
it. Yeah. But the part where everybody cares about, nobody talked about any of the other parts. Nobody talked about that he put like the GoPro on the doll, which is both hilarious and smart. They only talked about the conversation at the end. And when you say you seen clips, did you watch the whole like Shaylin, Mr. Girl
Well, the
interview
thing is,
conversation?
I think I watched some of so on one YouTube stream. I ended up watching I think the first 40 or 50 minutes of
Oh yeah.
Destiny talking to Mr. Girl and about it and about whether he's in an abusive relationship and stuff like that. So I couldn't really comment too much on the video itself because I hadn't seen it. But one thing I kind of noted in that video, and I think this was after he'd spoken to Not So Erudite. I'd watched him speak to Not So Erudite. I watched that video. I was like, Do you know what? Actually, like, yes, Destiny, like, at one point asks whether Shaylin's allowed a phone, and
Yeah.
it's obviously for content, right? But I can understand that, like, Max is a bit pissed off about that, and he's like, "What the fuck? Why are you asking me that?" And now that's led to further problems for him, right? Because people think that he's this super hardcore, you can't have a phone, you don't get to go outside kind of person. And for whatever faults he's got in this relationship, I don't think that that's true at all. So, that's kind of how I viewed it all, I guess.
Yeah, and he like he when Mr. Girl said like, "Is that a serious? Are you really asking me that?" Like he kind of smiled and laughed, like he knew it was out of line to ask it. But like, and like, I don't think Destiny is as socially inept as he pretends that he is. Sometimes I think he's pretty smart socially too. I think he had to know that was gonna hurt Max's feelings. Like,
Yeah, I think it was one of those moments. I think it seemed to be like a kind of a troll situation. He was trying to troll him a bit to get a reaction from chat, probably. Um, but yeah, I think the difficulty then is like you having this conversation about whether he's an abuser or whatever it is, and
yeah,
that just kind of pours fuel on the fire. And now I think there's people who, like, if you've got a criticism of Max in that way, like, fine, like, criticize away. I might well do if I end up watching the video. But I think that people overstate it to the point where they act like he's some sort of psychotic abuse person, and the way that they speak about him is like not in line with like what he probably is, which is like, I don't know. I don't like commenting on other people's
normal.
relationships too much, but
I think the way he
well,
interacts with his girlfriend is pretty normal. I don't usually interact to that extreme, but I know a lot of people who do, and it's not necessarily unhealthy. Although, too, I think my wife and I both agree that the times that we both got mad enough to scream at each other was the best, most like growth-causing conversations that we've had. It just looks ugly. You don't have the same feelings of the people invested. I don't think you can feel what's happening. You can only see from the outside. But I think if you've never yelled at the person that you love, like, I don't know how much you really love them. It takes a lot of love to get that mad. Does
yeah,
that
I
make
think the
sense?
problem that sure, but I think the problem you've got as well is like when it's framed as like, you've got the real doll in the background. It's like sometimes with Mr. Girl, it feels like that there's a serious point being made somewhere there, or is showing like a normal interaction, but then there's some weird shit happening that isn't really normal. Like the fact that it's all about this real doll. That to me, I think, doesn't really come across as like a normal thing. Most couples are going to be, particularly not filming it and putting it on the internet, right?
That's fair. Well, I think the thing that makes most people's brains turn offline for that whole deal is that it involved a conversation about sexual wants and desires. And I don't think that most people who live online have the capacity to separate the fact that sometimes people are talking about two things, and they can go back and forth between these things, and one isn't necessarily about the other thing. So like, they kind of switch gears a couple times through that conversation, and they talk about the sex that he wants, and then they also talk about the conversation that they're having and his issues with that and why that makes him upset. And like, I don't think that people are able to go like, oh, they just see it and they go, oh, this is all about sex. This is all about like him bullying her for sex, and I just think that people don't see it. Which is like, because that's all anybody talked about for the whole thing. And whether that's right or wrong to do, whatever, like I said, I'm not going to defend him, but I don't think that the conversation about what happened was very genuine. So I didn't know if that, it might have been smart to not watch the video, because you might have gotten buried under that shitstorm too, that rained down upon Mr. Girl.
Yeah, I think because the thing is, I ended up talking about it anyway, through this conversation that you had with like Destiny, and then I got somewhat involved in like the Not So Erudite thing, and I spoke to him over that. So it's like it was the only reason I didn't watch it is because I think I didn't get around to it on a stream, and then it was gone. And then by that point, it was on his website, and someone said watch it on his website, and I'm like, but if I watch it on his website, I can't be sure that it's TOS safe. And yeah, I only seldom stream on YouTube, so I never really got a chance to watch it. And then, when I was talking about it and what had happened and giving my takes on what I thought it was saying, people were saying, "Oh, you've got to watch the video." So it kind of just became to the point where it's like it felt like things had kind of progressed on, so it seemed pointless to, you know, dredge it up again, I guess.
Well,
But
I'd
yeah, I
suggest
will
for
watch the
your
video
own.
off the back of this. I'll definitely 100% watch the video because I should watch it. I've got to see what it's all about.
Yeah, I promise I'll send you that timestamp because
Okay.
I think that
I'll just watch the whole thing.
it's
I'm going
important.
to look at
Oh,
Mr. Girl's dick. I don't fucking care. I'm going to look at his todger, okay? I'm going to do it.
well, feel free to use my little quality
No,
of
I want to
life
see
hack.
it now. I'm
Well, you
interested
could
to see it now.
I looked at it a couple of times, but it's in it a lot. So once I had my fill, I was like, all right, good,
I've seen
good on
enough.
all that. Yeah, I know what it looks like. I still got to hear the sounds.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, no, I will watch it because it's been something I've been meaning to do it for a while, so I'll watch it.
So this wasn't something like when I reached out that I thought I'd have to ask anybody about. What do you think about his new position of not talking about other streamers? Is that like do you think he'll be able to do it? And if he does, like how bad do you think that would be for his career?
Well, the thing is, I think that happened like the day or within the few days of us talking, and I
Yeah,
hate to think that
next stream.
influenced that because I think that talking about other streamers is great content, but it
Yeah,
is what it is. I think that yeah, it's for what he's trying to do, it's probably a good idea, and especially with like the discussion around having meaningful conversations, and because I think that you know he's right. He's absolutely right in his assessment of it that I watched, and that yeah, this is what this is. You
true.
talk about other people. There's a lot of pressure and stress. Like people really underestimate and the mental health impact when it comes to like content creation and streaming. And people kind of think, oh well, other people have got it hard. Yes, obviously, other people have got it really fucking hard, right? Um, I'm sure doing autopsies on kids fucking is horrible, you've got to deal with that in some way. But like that doesn't mean that the mental health, load of this isn't there. And yeah, there is like it's like you're constantly thinking or worried or concerned about who's going to betray you next, and like it's very common for people to leak DMs. Is that something you've got to be worried about? And
Yeah,
someone who is your friend one week, next week could turn out that something comes out and they decide to turn around and shit on you and say fuck you. And that's happened to me quite a few times. So someone I was on friendly terms with has just turned around and gone, well, fuck you. And then you're kind of like, well, that's the end of that relationship or friendship or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, I think he's made a good decision, if only for his own kind of mental health, really. But it'll be interesting to see if it plays out. And I just don't know. It's difficult in reality, though, because if you're on a stream or you're talking about content, people are going to come up and do you just go, no, I'm not talking about that person?
no,
Maybe you
he'll
can
answer
make it work. I
questions
guess
that
we've
other
got to
people
see.
ask, but he's
Oh,
not.
right, okay.
Yeah, he clarified on the Mr. Girl hotline last night. Yeah, it was last night. That because like somebody came on and talked to him. Somebody came on and said they think Destiny killed Dr. K.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that was a fucking wild ride. And so, like, we very clearly. Also, the caveat is he will still talk about Dr. K to his heart's content. But yeah, he doesn't mind answering questions. But what he's not doing is getting involved with any like Twitch drama. He's not gonna be like, so appears that last night, Chud Logic and Destiny were caught making out at a white pride rally. Like he wouldn't say anything like that. And to everybody's surprise, they didn't deny it. So now everybody has to talk about this, and here we are, Mr. Girl covering this. That's kind of stuff won't happen. But he'll still talk about things that are brought up to him. Because I think there's a difference between him starting or adding to shit and him engaging with his community and the way the community is engaging back with him.
Yeah, no.
It's putting out a different
okay.
message.
I get that in terms of like if you're talking about someone, chat wants blood. So there's people that I'm on like friendly terms with and I'll be talking about in a certain way. And chat are like, they want to tease out some drama or some blood. And it's like, how can you like that person? They're a fucking idiot. Da, 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 da. And it's like, sometimes even if you're speaking positively about someone, there's this little hint of an incentive pulling at you to like just go ballistic on them and burn the bridge because chat are going to be entertained. You're going to get more viewers. That means more subs, more donos, and so on. So, yeah, it does get to a stage where you kind of like, yeah, I just don't want to talk about. You know, if there's people that I like that I know are contentious, I try to avoid talking about them unless absolutely necessary, because I know that I'll just get the stuff in chat going, come on, be mean about them, you know? And sometimes you can talk about a streamer and say, I disagree with this position, or I disagree with this person. And what chat want you to do is not just disagree and not just voice why you think they're wrong. They want you to
Yeah.
call them retarded. They want you to
Yeah.
call them a fucking moron and just go absolutely ballistic on them. And it's like, I don't want to do that with everyone. If there's someone I, you know, has done something to wrong me, or I really, really don't fucking like, maybe, I'll talk like that. But if it's someone who I've got some pre-existing relationship with, or some sort of friendship or anything with, then yeah, I'm not just going to roast them out of nowhere for no good reason, you know?
Yeah, I understand. It's got to be on your terms. Like they really got to do something harmful. They really got to get you going, or like be brown. No, I'm just kidding. You're all your little ironic racial jokes fucking tear me up, man. Every time, I never see it coming. Your that Marvel movie, I'm not. Your comment about the Marvel movie, I was in tears.
Which
Yeah,
which Marvel movie? Which one?
I don't know the name of it, but a friend of yours said, "I'm not going to watch this because I'm extremely racist."
Oh right, yeah.
Oh my
Right,
god,
yeah.
tears, dude. Cause I'm just scrolling along, like I never see it coming. And when you talked about Dr. Katie, she said, I just don't like Indian people. Like, dog.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god. Cause that's the kind of jokes that are that are okay. Cause like it's so hyperbolic that obviously we know what's really being said here, and god damn it, dude, you're good at it. You have the good delivery. It's the accent. I think it's the accent.
Accent helps. Well, I think that particular joke was because Mr. Girl had just spent like a few minutes giving this really heartfelt explanation about why he was so passionate about it, and it just seemed like a great counterbalance to that, you know?
Yeah, I understand. I really like comedy. I'm gonna do a video soon with my friend who doesn't understand comedy, and I don't want to hate him anymore, so I have to educate him on how it works. And yeah, I guess that's what I was trying to say to you. You have a good grasp on how to deliver those kinds of jokes where they don't it doesn't feel like you're full of hate. It just feels like you understand how timing and hyperbole works, and you do it really well. And nobody wants to make those jokes. So you're like you're kind of like the beacon of smart, edgy humor for me on Twitch. Because most of the time when people try to do it, they're just like racist thing. That's it. It's just like there's no timing. There's no. I don't know. It just sounds like they're being shitty.
Yeah. Well, the thing is I grew up on like British humor. You know, that was obviously what I grew up on, and people that some people probably hate, like Ricky Gervais, but people like Stuart Lee and like other kind of big British comedians, and like
who hates Ricky Gervais?
Well, I mean, I think people don't like him because he's got like spicy takes about trans people, I guess. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there's that. Okay, fair enough. He's like S tier. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think that if you listen to some of the way he does jokes and some of the edgy stuff he does, it does go beyond just haha racism or haha transphobia. There is a structure there.
Yeah, absolutely. He's telling a joke to make a point, usually, and well. He's one of those rare masters of the craft. And my buddy doesn't seem to differentiate between somebody like I think he said John Mulaney's in the same category as like Gabriel Iglesias and Jeff Dunham, and I was like, all right, we're making a video. I hate you right now. Jesus. I don't want to hate you. I love you, but you're making me hate you. And then he also said George Carlin never made him laugh, and I.
Oh no.
Until the video's over, I'm gonna pretend like he didn't say it. Like I have his records, I have his books. My kid was born the day that he died, and it was really bittersweet. I found out right after my kid was born, and it was it's comedy's important, and I don't think a lot of Twitch streamers have like a joke here or there, but I think like you get the formula, and that's probably my favorite thing about you. I really like your Mr. Girl stuff, but you seem to get the formula a little bit, and I like to give credit where credit's due.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah,
Absolutely. It also bums me out when people don't recognize that that's happening.
Yeah, I think like there's some people. I think that I feel one of the biggest when I was growing up, it was always people on the left that were the ones that were pushing back against the right, that were sawing out about jokes or movies or music or something like that. And then like the other day, Lizzo had sung this song, and one of the lyrics was spaz, which is short for spastic, which is a like an ableist slur.
Yeah,
It used to be a term. It's kind of like the British version of retard. And people were like mad about it. And if you don't like it as an expression, that's fine. Oh, I didn't really like to use this word. That's up to you. But it was like it wasn't just they didn't like it; they wanted her to change it. And whilst it's probably not as bad as like righties trying to get the government to censor stuff, it's kind of another level down where people want to use social pressure to get someone to change a piece of art they've created. And it's only a word, it's not like a massive thing, but that is an expression of her feeling and art and putting that lyric in. There's a reason she chose that lyric to represent that particular line or whatever it is. And people want to force them to change that. And I just think that's really fucked up, And the fact that it's now seems to be sometimes the left which are pushing this sort of thing is really sad for me, because I think it used to be the opposite. We used to be the ones that were like, no, fucking art should be whatever you want it to be, even if it upsets some people. Off you go. But there seems to be a real change on that. And whilst obviously, a lot of the anti-SJW shit is a load of nonsense, the idea that there's a sort of new puritanism amongst some people on the left is true. And I just think that that's a real shame, and we should get back to a place where we are able to understand that something is a joke, even if you don't like it, and it's not a true expression of someone's views, and we understand it in that context, and we know that a comedian's there to tell a joke. And there's stuff like when the Will Smith slap happened, the fact you had people unironically saying, oh, yes, that's good, actually, hit the people that are telling jokes. I'm just like, what is happening here? This is mental.
And, oh, God, Chud, say the thing. I expected you to say that they lost the plot because
they lost the plot. Okay.
Because like honestly, if you're happy that somebody made a joke that you think was bad, and you're happy that it resulted in violence, what the fuck are you mad about jokes for? Isn't the whole point that you think the joke is harmful and you want to reduce harm, so harm the guy that made the joke somehow is good? Like, I don't understand what kind of mental gymnastics has to be done in order to make this, cognizant for these people. It fucking blows me away. Like, do you care about harm or not? Like, it's just performative. It can't be real.
The thing I've realized about it as well is that if you try and argue, so let's say you say something that is a joke and it's got a racial undertone, the people that say you're racist, you're not going to convince them, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's either they are so deep down that they think a joke is a true expression of one's feelings, or they think, or they're just doing it as a performance, and the call out is a performance of, oh, look at this person making a racist joke. So in any case, you're not going to convince them. The best thing you can do is just lean into it.
Yeah,
and that's why I tweeted that thing about that show, because I saw someone complaining that people weren't watching that show, probably because it's like not a particularly famous superhero and other reasons. But they said it's because white people don't support non-white stories, and I just thought, I just was kind of mocking that concept.
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, the reason I'm not watching this, of course, is because I'm extremely racist. All right, it's like nothing to do with anything else. I'm not interested in it. It's just the racism. That's the main thing,
Yeah, I 100% understand. Like if I don't like a woman comic, instead of just saying I don't like, I usually just say, I didn't like her because women aren't funny. I'll usually just say that because
exactly.
Is it really worth breaking down like how the joke structure wasn't good when people are just gonna say that I'm being sexist anyways? I'll just like, well, I'll just say that I'm sexist in this moment, so that way you don't get to have that. I'm just gonna take it. It's just gonna be mine then. If that's how we're gonna play it, then I'll be sexist to me first before you get to do it. I get you. And I guess like you said, you can't convince people that you're not racist. Like sometimes when people get called out, I thought about this yesterday. I didn't really plan on bringing this up, but I think you'd get this. A lot of times people get called out for like making a racist joke or saying the N-word when they're singing songs. And their go-to response will be like, "No, I'm not racist. I have black friends." And that's and it's like a meme to make fun of somebody for that. But I was really thinking about that while I was driving. But like, I think what people don't understand is that the person that's saying I'm not racist, I have black friends, really doesn't think that they're racist. And like you can argue that like, well, like if you look at systemically and like the way that you're saying this is perpetuated, yeah, that's not how they think about what racism is. When somebody says, when you tell a white person that they're racist, they think that you're saying that like you hate black people. And they're saying like, no, like I'm not, like my best friend is black. They're trying to get you to understand that like I don't hate black people. Like my best friend is black. Like as I'm trying to illustrate, like I don't have any negative feelings about black. Like how do you not understand this? Like it's so obvious to them that should be enough for you. And now I think I'm a little more sympathetic to that because like that's just them like out of shock reaction saying like, well, like no, like it's so obvious that I'm not. Like just look at the people that I hang out with. And I think that the people that are I think that people are really bad at trying to explain to people what they think is problematic with what they say. Because when, like, say, if you tell them that they're racist, they're not even hearing what you mean, unless you're insane and think that telling a racist joke ironically or saying the N-word when you're singing a rap song because that song's good, that actually makes you hate black people. Yeah, it just seems like people don't know how to. We need more words. We don't have enough words anymore.
Well, this is the thing I think about it as well. Is like one thing I think the left does have is a very various interesting frames of analysis to understand like how the world works. So understanding the concept of like systemic racism as an example is good. It helps you, enriches you being able to see, right, maybe this is why this is the way it is and that is the way it is. And hey, yes, there's not explicit racism anymore, but maybe there's a problem with generational wealth or whatever it is. It lets you understand. But it feels like a lot of the lefty types will get all this education and get all this knowledge from college or whatever, and then they'll just sit in their ivory tower laughing at everyone else that doesn't get it without explaining it. And it's like, give people the knowledge that you've got, share it in a way that means something to them, rather than just laughing at them because they don't know about your fucking esoteric theory about how math is racist. Like, work with people, understand them, like know what their concerns are, because most people don't think they're racist. Most people don't even understand like what the esoteric aspects of what you're trying to discuss are. They just think, I don't hate black people, therefore no problem. And it's like the truth can be a lot more complicated than that. But getting in their face and telling them they're a horrific racist person is clearly not going to fucking get them on board with your ideas,
Right, and I think by most people's definition of what racism is, they're not. Regardless if you think that they're being problematic or they're contributing to systemic racism, by what most people mean when they say racist, most people aren't that. Even if they have, what's the fucking word, like microaggressions or whatever. And like even if they have microaggressions that have like racial connotations, like the thing that they think racism means doesn't apply to them. So of course they're gonna fight against it. It's just when I thought about that yesterday, it really bummed me out because I was like, that's just a problem that's never gonna get fucking fixed.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, I think it's frustrating, and I think that one thing that Mr. Girl does well in his content is he does in his own way bridge that gap, I think, and kind of like, even though sometimes the libs don't want to listen, he tells them, hey, this is where you're going wrong. I grew up in a very liberal area. I know what the narratives are. I know what the stories are. This is where you're going wrong. This is where you're missing. This is where you're not connecting with people, And I think he's generally pretty on the money with that kind of stuff, in kind of telling the libs, hey, this is where you're going wrong with it. So yeah, If more people listen to Mr. Girl, the world will be a better place.
Oh wow. It's like you know, right after I said what I just said, I was like, I'm gonna ask him the next Mr. Grill question. I was gonna ask you, do you think that he's helping people?
Um, I think so. Yeah, I think that he is offering a unique perspective that I think's worth listening to. Now, I appreciate you might just not like him, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their perspective, and maybe you can't listen to him because you don't like him that much. But I think if you actually can, hold your nose if you really don't like him and listen to what he's saying and get down to the root of it, and just step back from your immediate like soy. Oh my god, he said this crazy thing. Just take a step back,
Yes.
breathe, and just listen to what he's saying and just try and understand it a bit better. I think you will genuinely walk away, even if you disagree, with like a hey, I understand where that guy's coming from. I totally disagree, but I at least understand where he is, and maybe give you something to think about. I don't know.
Yeah, I said on a couple of these interviews that I've done that it seems to me that a lot of people who don't like Mr. Girl very strongly have like all the people that I've talked to, they like hate him because I really need people. If there's anybody who's listening to this and you really like seethingly don't like Mr. Girl, please fucking talk to me because I only get like one or two sentences. My friend who didn't like him, seen him on somebody else's stream, like the reason why you hate him is because somebody who hates him made a video about him and you saw stuff on that. And it's something that Mr. Girl's addressed too, but like it doesn't seem like you cannot listen to Mr. Girl part of the way. When I first started listening to him, I remember I was listening to him in the car because I listen to a lot of like Twitch politics stuff when I drive. My wife was like, "Why are you listening to this guy?" You know, it's probably like my second or third thing, and I was like, I was a little sketchy at first, but if you listen to half of what he says, sometimes he just sounds like a pedophile. But if you listen, sometimes if you listen to 85% of what he says, because we were still very much in that arc, he sounds like a pedophile. But if you listen to everything that he says, he always brings it back around. You're like, oh, I get it. That makes perfect sense. The way that he talks and the kinds of extremes that he uses to paint the picture, I think it's good because it really makes you think. It really puts you in the mindset to hear the point at the end. And when I mean, sometimes he's just like straight up like you can listen to part of it and it's fine. But I would never recommend that. You have to listen to the whole idea he's trying to express to understand what he's trying to express. I feel like he uses his time to speak wisely in that respect, especially when especially when he's doing like his own like curated stuff. You can't listen to part of it. You don't know which part is there to make you think about the main point. And I think a lot of people half listen or get it secondhand, and it's well, you're not gonna like Mr. Girl if you're not paying attention. I don't think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see his content through the lens, and this is something I think he's even spoken about. But like a streamer will react to his content, and they won't really give it a fair shake. They're going in and they don't like Mr. Girl, and they're going in to show how bad he is, and they'll like go in hard on him without
Yeah.
just taking a step back and go. And I think I try when I watch someone else's content on stream, I try to take a step back and go, you know, I don't just want to go in and just shit on them because I don't like them or because I think they've said stupid things before. I want to think, do I agree or disagree with what they're saying? Do I think they're making a good point or something like that, right? And I don't want to misrepresent people. So I think it's important just to take a step back and just listen and just see, do I genuinely feel a certain way about it? And I think that some people, because of the sort of controversy around Mr. Girl, there's this feeling that if you in any way agree with him, you are committing the crimes that he's accused of. You're a pedophile, you're an abuser,
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? And I think that people go in with that mentality, so they end up having to disagree for the fear of looking like, oh, you agree with him there. And I just reject that. It doesn't matter. I'll watch a Ben Shapiro video. If he says something, I've not done for a long time, but if he says something that I think is agreeable, I go, yeah, I agree with that. Like, I don't, just because you agree with someone on a point doesn't mean you agree with the totality of everything they're doing and what they're saying and what they believe.
Yeah, like I 100%. Like I think it's okay to think that girls shouldn't be in the Boy Scouts. It doesn't make you sexist. Like that was like a big Ben Shapiro thing. I don't really care if you do or don't think they should be, but I don't think that makes you sexist, and I don't think it makes you agree with everything Ben Shapiro said.
Yeah, exactly.
And not only that too, people really miss the point. Like my friend who was animate at me, he said that the kids and cuties were hot. What more do you need to know? And I said, is there anything that that he could say or that you could see that would change your mind? He said, nope, that's all I needed to know. And I was like, would it help to know that he's brought on experts to talk about what's the best way to prevent harm from children, that he's went after TikTok, that he has open DMs to set a precedent, which I saw you do too. Way to go. And like I sort of listed like a handful of things that he's done that I would see as one of the, like, I think that Mr. Girl has probably like put in more work than any streamer that I've ever seen with the purpose of preventing harm from coming to children. With the things that he's actually done and his intention to do it, like people talk about it, get mad about it, but they don't do anything about it. And he was like, no. And I said, well, then I really hope that you watch the video that I make. And he said, well, why would I watch the video that you're making if it's about somebody that I hate? I said, because I'm your friend and I'm asking you to. And then we just sort of stopped talking. He didn't really respond to that. So I hope at least that made him think. But that's kind of the point. One of the big drives to me making this is for like the fans of Mr. Girl that do listen all the way, that don't stop when he says something that sounds scary, and understand what he's saying, and who have friends that are like, I don't understand how you can empathize with this child predator. I really hope that I can show why people don't like Mr. Girl, and why, despite the things that they think are happening, he has a very loyal fan base. And the community for Mr. Girl is good. It's a really good community. The Discord can be really fucking wild and overwhelming for me, but one of the people in the Discord was having a really hard time a little while ago, and it was really inspiring to see the people in the Discord reach out and make sure that they were okay. I don't see that a lot. I don't think that the people in his Discord, or the community that he's built for him, are a bunch of edgelords who want to see people get upset when they hear something about the Cuties review, or when they get upset when they see the I'm a pedophile video. I think that they're people that are really interested in what's being said, really interested in the honesty, and more recently, I think that right now where I'm at with my narrative is I think that the thing that people really like about Mr. Girl is that I think he helps them. I think he helps people talk more honestly. I think he helps people figure some things out about themselves. I've been really surprised at some of the answers people have given me when I've said, do you think any of his content has like really spoken to you or been profound or like shaped your ideas on something and been helpful? I've really been blown away by some of these answers.
Well, I think that you know, one thing you notice, well, one thing I think about Mr. Girl is sometimes he'll say something and it's so shocking and it's so horrifying. And some people, the reason it's so shocking and horrifying is not just because it's shocking and horrifying, but because it actually speaks to them in some direct way, and they don't like what they see. It's almost like Mr. Girl's holding a mirror to them, and they're looking in the mirror and going, "I don't like that." This, and you attack the person that's held up the mirror. And I think a great example of this is when, he talks about the girls and cuties and the things he says about them. Whilst I think some people may genuinely just be outraged by it, I think some people feel uncomfortable because, they had that forbidden thought, and it's
or
like,
they're afraid of having it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're afraid of having it. Yeah, and they push it back down desperately, but it's kind of too late. It's like you've by accepting what Mr. Girl is saying, you yourself potentially have sexualized the kids too. So you're doing the thing that you're angry about, and you're kind of lashing out. I think there's probably some people that react in that way about it too.
Yeah, I think it freaks people out because like you can't not think about something on purpose. If I say the girls in cuties were shaking their asses right in front of the camera, you can't go, okay, I'm just going to assign an if-then script to my brain, and when you say that, my brain won't just choose to think about it like it just did when this asshole who's talking to Chud said that. You're gonna think about it, and if Mr. Girl is saying that he thinks that they were hot in it, you have to. It's gonna pop into your head and go, were they? In the clip that he just showed, and if it makes you uncomfortable to think about that, then you should probably think about why you were uncomfortable. Because like it's probably the case that you were uncomfortable because you just don't want to think about it, because you just don't want to. It doesn't feel good for you to think about it. But I think I had a moment when I was I think my kid was like 5 and I was in Walmart and I got uncomfortable, like it's like 14 or 15-year-olds walking around in like really tiny shorts, and I was just like, I had the thought, like, I wouldn't say this thing, but I thought, like, gosh, I wish they would put some more clothes on. Because, like, as a parent, I had this, like, weird thought. And then there was, like, this, like, more me part that I was familiar with, like, where the hell did that come from? So I think that we have layered thoughts about a lot of things. It's like, because, like, I never would have thought that I'd be the kind of person to think something like that. Like, oh, you need to put more clothes on. Like, who the fuck am I to say that? But, I think that it's really hard to understand your feelings, especially about like bodies and how you feel sexually if you don't think about them. And I think that people don't like thinking about sex in a way that's outside of like their control. They don't want to have to think about sex unless they're choosing to think about it. And I think it confuses people because society doesn't want you to think about sex. They want you to talk about sex. Like it's either like we have like two like half society. One says like never ever talk about sex. You shouldn't even do sex unless you're married. And the other half is like you should talk about every sexual fantasy you've ever had super loud and be really really proud of it. And I think that both of those ideas make a lot of people uncomfortable. So when somebody comes in and says, like, I want you to think about sex in a really nuanced way, people don't know how to do that. I don't know if it's like that in Britain. My American history classes would tell me that you guys are like the most sexually repressed people in the entire world, but I don't think that's necessarily true.
Yeah, I think that there are. I mean, we have, I guess, yeah, we are somewhat repressed, I guess. Yeah, it's yeah, it's not something we talk openly about. Certainly compared to Europe as well. Europe is a lot more open, particularly Germany and other countries. So,
Wait,
yeah.
is the UK not in Europe?
Yeah, it is in Europe. Yeah, I mean, as in other European countries alongside
Okay.
us.
Okay, you just fucked me up for a minute there. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot. In fact, when you were talking about people not liking black people, I stopped wondering, like, is there enough black people in the UK to even make that a big talking point?
Well, I mean, in some places it's like 98% white. It's crazy. But
That sounds like where I used
yeah,
to live. And
yeah.
I'm
But in sorry, go on.
oh, I see, and I'm Italian, so I was too dark to live up there. And my wife is albino. Like my wife's like legitimately
Okay.
albino, so she's too white, and
Wow.
she was born and raised up
Yeah.
there. So like
Yeah.
I've Italians are like white in America now.
Hmm.
But depending on where you go, I wasn't white enough, and my wife was too white for people to treat us decently. I also got a lot of racism for being Middle Eastern, even though I'm not, because they really hillbillies. Do you guys know do you know the phrase hillbilly?
Yeah, I know a hillbilly. Yeah,
Okay, hillbillies really don't like Arabic people.
yeah.
So I'm really well versed in what it feels like to have racism stop you from getting a job and stuff, and have people being mean to you and making weird like on the fly nicknames for you, even though I'm not the thing. So
You got the right skin tone for it though, so they're all over it.
yeah. I was gonna ask you, is do people on your side of the planet still know still like, is there still like racism towards Italian people? Because nobody in America remembers that was a thing, and that I think I'm gonna do something about that in the near future, like a video, because I talk to so many people and they don't understand that black people and Italian people were essentially the same class of citizens for a long time in the U.S. And now Italians are just white. And
Well,
so like there's
yeah,
no, we have to pretend that like systemic racism plays no part in how like Italians function and get by in the U.S. But like it's pretty impactful.
well,
So
it's funny because now Italians are considered white. All
yeah,
of a sudden, all the anti-Italian shit is okay. You know, it's like go ahead. And it's like I look at it and I think, look, a couple of memes here and there in a good-natured way with a friend is one thing, but there's people that are like
see,
making pretty like explicit anti-Italian comments, and then someone's saying, "Hey, don't do that. That sucks," and they're doing it more. I'm just like mind-boggled by it.
yeah,
Like, what the fuck? It's like
it,
an acceptable form of racism.
your chat is even saying like your chat is like gaslighting me right now. It says it's not Italian, specifically Sicilians. No, Sicilians too, but also Italian. Somebody says, is that true? I don't think it's true. I encounter that like if I just try to have a conversation about it, like at my job, when we were all talking about shit, and that it sort of like I don't remember how it came up, but I was like, yeah, like Italians had a really hard time in the United States, and like my manager's Italian, and I got the same stuff like, well, that's not true. That didn't happen, and I'm like, you hear this shit, Ed? Like. That's why it bugs me because people don't know that it's real. People think that it's made up. Like the cover up on this is phenomenal. And I don't think it was as bad. Obviously, like we weren't enslaved or anything like that. But like as far as not being denied like home loans and being put into like the really shitty parts of the area, they even used the same slurs for Italians as they did for black people. Like like literally like consider the exact same class. It's just the only thing that really makes me upset about it is that people pretend like it wasn't real. So I didn't know if in like Europe if that still goes on or if like people is it like common knowledge that that happened when people immigrated to the United States from Italy that it was like garbage as fuck for them to do that.
Well, I think that I don't know if it's like common knowledge. I think that our racism is more nuanced because there's a lot of racism between white people. So,
Right.
like, if you've got someone from a Slavic country in the UK, they're going to be treated differently from, a sort of indigenous English white person. It was particularly bad, sort of turn of the century with the EU and opening up of borders. They're coming and taking our jobs was kind of a big narrative. I think it's probably better than it is now, but I think there's probably still like an anti-Slavic sentiment that exists within the UK, particularly in certain places. And obviously, all the narratives were told at the time. They are coming to take your jobs, etc., etc. When obviously, you know,
Oh, they're like
isn't
Mexicans to
quite.
us.
Yes, yeah. Slavic are basically white Mexicans in Europe, I guess, is one way to look at it. That's probably a quite a good way.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're coming to take your jobs. One is it's a classic
Yeah.
tactic. Okay. Can you guys tell when somebody's from another country and they're white, like on spot? Like,
Oh
would you
yeah,
know
we're
would you know an
yeah.
Irish guy as soon as you seen him?
Oh, Irish is probably a little bit more tricky,
Oh,
because of how close our kind of countries are, and that we look quite similar. Um,
isn't that
I
one of
think
them
I think
though?
if
Like one of the high contentions is Irish. Like, is there a lot of Irish anti-Irish sentiment?
I think things are a lot better now, particularly like since political events like the Good Friday Agreement. The IRA are nowhere near like as active as they used to be. There isn't the kind of the street bombings that used to happen and so on, and there isn't the kind of like vicious attacks against like Englishness that you kind of used to see. So, I think that's softened down a bit. I think the big thing now is probably more so within Europe. Not since leaving the EU as much, I guess, but yeah, certainly like the anti-Slavic thing. And I think even after like Brexit happened and whatnot, and that was
Brilliant,
kind of
by the
voted
way.
for. Yeah, I think there was I think there was this kind of like, and certainly I lived with like a French guy at the time, for example, and I don't know if this is bears out in statistics, um, but I think certainly I heard about and saw specific instances of like anti French, anti-German, whatever the country kind of sentiments happening. And there was this feeling of like almost like, right, we voted for Brexit, all you foreigners, fuck off home. That was kind of a bit of a sentiment I think that was sort of felt. So yeah.
Is that even how that works? Does it kick people out?
Well, no, it wasn't. Not
I
at
didn't
all.
think so.
It wasn't like we
It
voted
did
for Brexit and all
nothing
the Frenchies get on
but
the
hurt.
ferry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it just it only hurts you economically, right? That's like the entire
yeah, more or
deal.
less. Yeah, yeah, they're pretty much. Yeah, I mean, there's some complexities to it, but broadly speaking, it was just a negative thing to do that was sold as like bringing our country back to brilliance,
It
basically. Yeah,
it was a very expensive gesture to say we don't like different people.
pretty much. Yeah.
Fucking, at a certain level, like I almost respect it if you're that full of hate. Like you're so full of hate, you're willing to like cripple your country's economy. Like, well, I guess I can't say I don't believe you.
Yeah, I think there's some people that did it for like economic reasons and stuff like that, but there was definitely a component, obviously led on by propaganda,
Yeah,
that we're fear mongered about like Turkey joining the European Union, and then it's the logic of like, well, if Turkey joined the European Union, we're going to get the Turkish en masse coming over here, and it's like. It's not that they're just gonna, set up a kebab shop or whatever. It's they're gonna come over and they're probably gonna do maybe a bit of terrorism or something. That was the kind of narrative that some people kind of were selling and buying into. The idea that radical Islam is going to come. Some of it was quite coded, but yeah, there was definitely a sort of sentiment of that in some places. But some people, it wasn't necessarily about the racial stuff or, you know, the immigration thing. There were other reasons, but that was
they're
definitely
just wrong,
the
right?
sentiment somewhere. Yeah, yeah.
I got you. It's like not everybody voted for Trump is like racist or bigoted, and sometimes they're just stupid and they believed things that would just
Yeah.
weren't true.
Yeah, sure. Something like that, yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, I know. I know you guys have not a great narrative when it comes to like your political campaigning and stuff too. It's people are easy to get tricked everywhere, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing we saw, and this I think something the right really excels at, is they're able to get across a lot in a phrase, like "Make America Great Again," um, "Get Brexit Done," "Take Back Control." It was in relation to Brexit as well.
Yeah,
They seem to be very good at these kind of like, you know,
dog whistles.
catchy. Well, not not dog whistle, just like a catchy thing that encompasses a lot that people connect to. It's a very good slogan that people and you look at what the left have got, and it's just stuff that doesn't have that broad appeal. ACAB, right? ACAB. No one gives a shit. Most people don't give a shit about ACAB, right? They're going to be against that idea. But the principle of
Yeah,
making America great again, you're going to get a lot of people on board with that, right? A load of people, as we saw. Um,
yeah. The right wing stuff's
defund the
on its
police.
face makes sense. All the left wing stuff, you have to break it down. Like Black Lives Matter seems pretty straightforward, but they mean a lot more than that. When somebody says "Make America Great Again," whatever you think needs to make America great, that's what it means to you. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair. Yeah, fair. And yeah, uh, sorry to veer off into some other things, but I wasn't gonna not ask you some of these things while I was here. Uh,
No, 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 no. It's fine.
uh,
No, it's not a problem at all.
um, is there?
But yeah, get back to Mr. Girl.
Oh
Was
yeah,
was there anything else? Because I
that's
just wanted to know any other questions we've missed, anything we're not covered that you wanted to get to,
well, actually, I
anything
was
like
going
that.
to ask you. What do you think? Well, I have like one more like pre-rendered question, and then maybe
Hmm.
if you just want to tell me anything that you think would be important in shaping my narrative about sort of the scope of my project, I'd be happy to hear whatever you have on that. But I guess that the other thing that I have on here is what do you think that people misunderstand uh, about Max more than anything else? Like if you could pin down one thing, like I hear this and I see this and like they just don't fucking get it, or they lost the plot on this one.
Um. Oh, I think just whenever I hear people do this idea that he's some sort of like malicious actor or he's got these bad intentions, or he's just doing it for attention or clout or something like that. Like there's some sort of maliciousness put upon him. I just don't think that's true. I think that whenever you consider an accusation like that, if you actually look at what he's doing, it doesn't really meet up to that expectation if you really truly look at what he's doing. Like, for example, an accusation he's doing it for clout or money or something like that, when he's tackling issues and talking about topics in a way that are totally antithetical to that. You know,
Yeah.
the idea that he's a pedophile, when you actually listen to what he's talking about, he's not talking about, oh, pedophiles based, actually. He's explaining why it's wrong and why it's bad to like harm children, but also showing you that, hey, not everyone who has got this intent or these thoughts or feelings are taking action. So what do we do with these people, And it's having a conversation in that area or whatever it may be. I think that, you know, you only really get to the position, I think, that he's doing something bad, malicious, etc., that he has that thing that he's doing, if you only listen to half of what he's saying or heard third hand what he's saying from someone else. And the biggest thing of all is, like, if you have got these thoughts about him, like, talk to him. Okay, get past your baby brained fucking, oh no, I can't platform him. Just talk to the guy, and you can talk to him. He's not some sort of, like, 5D rhetoric chess master. You can just have a chat with him and see what happens. It's not that big a deal. He is very approachable, and you'll be fine. Something like that.
And I'd even go as far as to say that if you're not combative, he's nice. I watch all his call-ins. He's pretty he seems like he wants to be nice to his fans and people who call in. He just seems like maybe he doesn't seem to want to be as nice to people that are coming after him. Which seems reasonable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. And and some people take that to the point to think that it's an act, which I don't feel like you can watch Mr. Girl for as long as he's been streaming and genuinely, like, if it's an act, you should be mad that he's not like a famous actor in Hollywood, because we're being deprived of like such a great showman that he should be starring in like AAA movies. Like, where's the outrage that he's not starring in the next like Mission Impossible or whatever bad movie that they're putting great actors in? Like, yeah, whenever I hear somebody saying like it's an act, like, then fucking give him credit for being an amazing actor if that's what you really think. It's almost like that guy who wrote like A Million Little Pieces or whatever, who wrote that book. Like, if it was like, when they found out that it was true, everybody's like, oh, this is a garbage book. Or when they found out that it was fiction, they were like, this is a terrible, terrible book. But when they thought it was a real story, they were like, this is an incredible book. Like, if you think that he's acting, then you shouldn't be. Your entire opinion about him should change, and you shouldn't be like as mad then either. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't ever see anybody who accuses him of acting who changed their position. Because some people even said, like, I didn't think so, used to think so, but now I do. Then, like, why aren't you mad? Or, like, why aren't you more mad? You should be mad about different things. But yeah, that makes sense. I think that's definitely one of the big things that people don't seem to understand as well. And I don't think I've gotten the same answer to that one twice either. Is there anything else that you think that is really important to note on this kind of project about him, or your guys' like relationship? Sorry, I'm trying to deliberately make it sound like you're gay lovers.
No, it's fine.
That part's just for me though.
I think that no, I think we've covered it, to be honest. Yeah, I think yeah, everything is there. I think that if you are someone out there who is bothered by my relationship with Mr. Girl, that's fine. Maybe just think about it a bit more. And if you still thought about it and you still got a problem with it, that's fine too, I guess. You're more than welcome to, like, not engage with or watch my content because there's one person I talk to or sometimes make content with that bothers you. But I am ride or die with Mr. Girl.
Oh yeah.
He'd have to do something pretty crazy for me at this point to say no, thank you. Probably murder someone or something, I'd imagine, or something of similar like notoriety. But yeah, I think that's it.
Cool. Would you mind terribly if I sort of gave my schedule for who I'm talking to about this next?
No, please do. Please promote yourself as much as you like.
Thank you. So on Tuesday at 7:30 Eastern, I'm talking to Wicked Supreme because their conversation was a beautiful disaster, but it should have been better. It really should have. Stardust on Wednesday, and I already kind of blew it at the end of my stream with Perspective Philosophy. I haven't announced anybody yet, but like I said, I accidentally already did it publicly. I don't have a set day yet, but I'm also talking to Destiny soon, which I didn't think was gonna happen. I didn't even think I could get him to see my email. And also, Chud, I really, really appreciate it. Like, I didn't think that before I went to bed when I messaged you, told my wife, I said, if Chud says yeah, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. And it was the first thing. I woke up late for work, and I seen your message, and I was like, I'm losing my fucking mind. Every single person I've talked to has been so supportive. Like, I guess if you don't mind, real quick, I'll tell you why. I haven't had the ability to make any art in like 10 years. My brain's just bad. Like I said earlier, I went to therapy and I got put on meds that my brain just works now. And I get to act like a functional, normal human being. And this is my first big thing that I came to. I said, I really want to make this. I get that fire in my belly, you know? It seems like your British coin thing that you made? It seemed like you really cared about that. You put a lot of effort into it. It's just, I haven't felt this way to make something that's important to me like that in like 10 years. Like just the desire to make art and not really have the mental ability to do it. And so the fact that everybody that I've talked to really like reached out to, that would have been like, these are the people like I really need to shape the narrative, have said yes. And it's insane to me. I really appreciate it, and it gives me it like legitimizes what I'm doing to me. I'm not like doing anything. I'm nobody. I'm not even trying to do this for I'm not trying to make any money. I'm not trying to like really grow my channel. If any of that happens at any point in my life, that's cool, whatever, I don't care. I just want to make art that I care about. That was one of my goals when I started going to therapy. And you and Zonia, Jimmy and Baby, everybody who I've already interviewed, Josh from Healthy Gamer, it's all given me a little bit more confidence in myself that I should be doing what I'm doing. Because like you guys are all busy, you guys got your own shit going on, and it means the world to me that everybody's giving me the tools that I need to do this, and I'm so appreciative just that I get to work on this. And I couldn't have done it without all you guys helping me out. It means a lot.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm really interested in seeing the final result of, and seeing what sort of response there is to it as well. That's going to be interesting too. Are we going to have another round of Mr. Girl discourse? Who knows? Could be good. But yeah, thanks for asking me. I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on and talking to me. It's been good.
Yeah.
Do you have
same.
everything you need though before we wrap this up?
I'm pretty sure I do. Oh, if I could get a PDF of your, like a JPEG of your profile picture for my thumbnail, because one of the things I've been doing is the reason why it's all streams is I'm making a I'm going to attach a link to a PDF that's going to serve as a bibliography for this, so nobody can say that I misrepresented them. I'm going to put what I clipped into the video from which video in there. Nobody's going to be able to say this video was made in bad faith. Say, fuck you, go look. If you think you were misrepresented, you can say like, well, here's what I said afterwards. I'm not trying to do any of that. So it's I'm trying to do it right. But if you do watch the video on stream or anything and you don't call me an Italian slur, I'm gonna cancel my sub to you, and I'm gonna smear you all over Twitter. I swear to God.
Okay, it's noted.
I mean,
look at all the best ones.
A Middle Eastern slur would be okay, although I don't have the full beard yet. I can't shave it until I finish my video project. That's one of my Easter eggs. But again, thank you so much. I think I covered everybody. Oh, and I got two other people that aren't confirmed, but I'll put those up on Twitter. So yeah, thank you, Chud. I will get out of your. Well, let me see. Yep, your avatar today is hair. I'll get out of your hair. I appreciate it, and I really enjoy your content.
Thanks.
Keep
I'm
keep
hoping to enjoy yours.
Thank you. Keep being the edgy guy for me, please. Everybody else is going away.
No worries. I'm all over it.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.